The morning sun was gentle, but nothing about Maya's walk to school felt gentle at all. Her old shoes scraped the pavement with every step, their torn sides flapping like wounded wings. She kept her eyes low, praying no one noticed. But prayers rarely worked in hallways filled with hungry eyes. And when Jade spotted her, that cruel smile appeared instantly, slicing through the air. "Still wearing those?" Jade's voice echoed sharp enough to cut. Laughter followed like a wave, drowning Maya in shame she never asked for. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to scream, but all she did was hold her breath and keep walking. Why does the world attack the ones who hurt the quietest? How far can a broken heart bend before it snaps? What if the girl they laugh at becomes the storm they never saw coming? Maya made it to her classroom and dropped into her seat, hoping her heartbeat would calm before anyone noticed. The laughter from the hallway still echoed in her mind, replaying like a cruel memory she couldn't mute. She kept staring at her shoes, wishing they were different, wishing she was different. But wishes didn't stitch torn fabric back together. They didn't erase insults or silence mockery. When the teacher walked in, Maya lifted her head just enough to pretend she was fine. Pretending was a skill she mastered long ago. Yet somewhere inside, under the bruised layers of shame, something small and stubborn pushed back. A spark, faint but alive. She didn't know it yet, but pain was carving the doorway to the life she would one day claim. When the lunch bell rang, Maya waited until most students had left before she stood up. She walked slowly toward the courtyard, hoping to find a quiet corner where she could breathe. The world felt too loud today. She sat alone under a small tree, hugging her knees to her chest. The wind brushed her hair gently, almost as if trying to comfort her. She wished she had someone who understood, someone who didn't see her shoes before they saw her heart. As she pulled the torn fabric together with her fingers, she wondered if life would always feel this heavy. But deep inside, another thought whispered, maybe she wasn't meant to stay small forever. Maybe one day, the world that crushed her would be forced to notice the strength she hid. When Maya got home, she dropped her backpack by the door and hurried to her room before her mother could see her face. But Elena always noticed. She knocked softly, then walked in, her tired eyes filling with worry the moment she saw Maya curled on her bed. Maya tried to explain, but the words broke apart before they reached her lips. Elena sat beside her and held her gently, whispering that pain didn't define her worth. Maya nodded, but the hurt still burned. Later, when the house grew quiet, she sat on the floor and lifted her shoes into her hands. For the first time, she didn't just see them as something shameful. She saw them as something she could change, something she could rebuild. Late that night, Maya wandered into the small storage corner of the house, searching for anything that might distract her from the day. A dusty box caught her eye. Inside, she found her father's old crafting tools, scissors, scraps of leather, bits of fabric, and a worn sketchbook. She touched everything slowly, almost reverently. Something inside her clicked. She sat down on the floor and began to sketch, letting her imagination spill out. For the first time in a long time, her heart felt lighter. Maybe she couldn't change how people treated her today. Maybe she couldn't erase the shame. But she could create something. She could build something new from the pieces life handed her, and that small spark felt like the beginning of something huge. The next morning, Maya woke before the sun. Her eyes were heavy, but her heart felt strangely alive. She sat on the floor where she had sketched the night before. Her father's old tools spread around her like forgotten treasure. She lifted her torn shoes into her lap, studying every rip, every weakness. Instead of shame, she felt curiosity. She gathered scraps of fabric from the storage corner, tracing shapes and imagining something better. When she stitched the first small patch onto the worn surface, it wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Her hands shook, not from fear but from possibility. For the first time, she wasn't fixing something broken, she was creating something new. And even if no one else ever saw it, she felt a spark of pride warming inside her chest. At school, Maya slipped into a corner of the courtyard during break, hoping to avoid Jade and her friends. She sat with her sketchbook open, drawing new designs she wished she had the courage to make. Oliver walked by, stopping when he noticed her focused expression. He quietly sat across from her, not wanting to scare her away. When he asked what she was working on, Maya hesitated, then slowly turned the sketchbook around. His eyes widened with genuine surprise. He didn't laugh. He didn't smirk. Instead, he told her the drawings were incredible, that she had real talent. The warmth in his voice felt unreal, like a language she wasn't used to hearing. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe him. Jade never missed an opportunity to strike. When she spotted Maya sitting alone during lunch, she exchanged a wicked smile with her friends. They approached quietly, pretending to walk past until Jade paused and glanced down at Maya's shoes. With practiced cruelty, she lifted her foot and stepped on the edge of Maya's shoe, twisting her heel until the torn fabric ripped even further. Maya gasped softly, the sound barely audible, but the pain flashed across her face. Jade shrugged as if it were nothing. Oops. The laughter stung more than the damage. Maya clutched her shoe in her hands, feeling something inside her break, but not in the way Jade hoped. The pain became fuel. A silent promise began forming in her heart. She would rise. Maya rushed home that afternoon, clutching the ruined shoe like a wounded part of herself. She sat on the floor once more, tears she had held in all day finally breaking free. But instead of collapsing, she picked up the tools. Her hands moved with a mixture of anger and hope. She shaped new patches, cut new patterns, and layered bright fabric over torn pieces. Hours passed without her noticing. When she finally lifted the finished shoe into the light, it didn't look like the old one anymore. It looked bold, unique, alive. She held it to her chest and breathed deeply. The world had pushed her down, but here in this small room, she was learning how to stand again. The next morning, Maya stepped out of her house wearing the redesigned shoes. Her heart pounded with nerves. They were beautiful, and they were hers. Walking into school felt different this time. Students' eyes followed her, but not with mockery. Whispers floated behind her like soft echoes. She felt their curiosity, their surprise. For once, she didn't shrink. She walked slowly, letting every step remind her that she had changed something, even if only a little. When Oliver passed by and noticed her shoes, his smile grew wide and genuine. "You made those?" he asked. Maya nodded shyly. For the first time, she felt a tiny spark of pride grow warm inside her chest. The morning after Maya wore her redesigned shoes, the atmosphere at school shifted in ways she didn't expect. Teachers who usually hurried past students paused when she walked by. Mrs. Rowan, her art teacher, stopped her at the door before class began. She asked Maya where she bought her shoes, admiring the colors and stitching. When Maya quietly admitted she made them herself, Mrs. Rowan's eyes widened with a warmth Maya rarely saw directed at her. She told Maya she had a gift, something rare, something real. The words echoed inside Maya's heart, stirring a quiet courage she had never felt before. For the first time, she wasn't simply surviving the day. She was being seen. And that feeling settled into her chest like sunlight, finally reaching a place that had been dark for far too long. By lunchtime, whispers about Maya's shoes spread through the halls like a soft breeze. Students who never spoke to her before glanced at her feet with curiosity instead of ridicule. A few approached her cautiously, asking if she really made them. She answered quietly, unsure how to handle the sudden attention. One girl asked if Maya could design a pair for her too. The question stunned her. She had never imagined anyone would want something she created. Oliver soon joined her at the courtyard table, smiling proudly as he listened to the small crowd forming around her. Maya tried to stay calm, but inside her chest her heart fluttered wildly, caught between disbelief and hope. Something was changing, and for once, it felt like change she could embrace. Oliver found Maya after school, excitedly telling her he had thought about her designs all day. He pulled out his notebook, showing her ideas he sketched. Simple shapes, bold angles, patterns he thought matched her style. Maya stared at the drawings, stunned by his enthusiasm. No one had ever wanted to create with her before. They sat beneath the tree, in the courtyard, their sketchbooks open side by side. For the first time, Maya felt what it was like to build something with someone who believed in her. Their ideas flowed easily, as if they had been waiting for this moment all along. When Oliver told her that her talent deserved to be seen, her heart trembled with the weight of a new truth. Maybe she did have something worth showing the world. But the growing attention didn't go unnoticed. Jade observed everything from across the courtyard, her arms crossed, and her expression tightening with every passing moment. She couldn't understand why people were suddenly fascinated by Maya. Maya, the girl she had ridiculed for years. Watching students crowded around her felt like a personal insult. When one of Jade's closest friends mentioned how cool Maya's shoes looked, Jade's jaw clenched. She felt her control slipping, and the fear beneath her confidence began to surface. With a cold glare, she made a silent promise to put Maya back in her place. Jade convinced herself she wasn't jealous, but jealousy was already burning, like a quiet fire in her chest. By the end of the week, something Maya never dared to imagine happened. A senior girl approached her in the hallway and asked if she could buy a pair of custom shoes. Maya froze, unable to speak at first. The girl repeated the question with a hopeful smile, explaining she had seen Maya's redesigned pair and wanted something unique like that. Maya finally nodded, her heart pounding so hard she felt it in her fingertips. When she walked away, she held the request like a precious secret. Her first paid order. Her first step into something bigger than school hallways and hurtful whispers. For the first time in her life, Maya felt the future leaning toward her. Not as a threat, but as an invitation. Maya worked late into the night, finishing Talia's custom order. By morning, her room looked like a tiny workshop. Fabric scraps in every corner, threads stuck to her clothes, sketches taped to the walls. When she delivered the shoes to Talia before school, she expected polite gratitude, maybe even silence. Instead, Talia slipped them on instantly and walked through the halls like she was on a runway. Students turned their heads one by one, whispering, pointing, asking where she got them. Talia proudly said Maya's name. That single moment felt unreal, like watching a dream unfold while still half asleep. By lunch, Maya received messages from classmates she barely knew, asking about prices, colors, designs. Her hands shook as she read each request. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was rising, slowly but undeniably. By the next day, Maya's bedroom had transformed completely. Shoes in various stages of repair and redesign covered the floor. Sketches filled her desk, walls, and even her bed. She worked between school assignments, skipping breaks, ignoring the ache in her hands. Elena warned her gently not to overwork herself, but Maya couldn't slow down. Every new order felt like a small miracle she couldn't take for granted. Oliver visited after school, stunned by the whirlwind of creativity. He told her she was building something real, something powerful. Maya felt overwhelmed, but also strangely alive. For the first time, she wasn't running from pain. She was creating her own path. As the days passed, Maya struggled to balance everything. Teachers noticed her exhaustion. Homework piled up untouched. Orders kept coming, each more complicated than the last. She woke early, worked late, and barely had time to breathe. Elena tried to set limits, but Maya felt like stopping would make everything fall apart. She didn't want to disappoint anyone, not after finally being seen. One evening, she fell asleep at her desk, needle in hand, fabric beneath her cheek. When she woke with a sore neck and aching fingers, she realized she was losing herself in the rush. But instead of slowing down, she whispered to herself that she had to push harder. She believed this was her only chance. A week later, something unbelievable happened. A small local boutique saw a post a student uploaded of Talia wearing Maya's shoes. The owner messaged Maya asking if she could bring samples to the shop. Maya's heart nearly stopped. She spent the next 2 days perfecting 3 pairs. Her hands raw, her eyes burning, but her spirit fierce. When she arrived at the boutique after school, she held the box tightly, praying she was enough. The owner examined her work carefully, impressed by the creativity and courage behind each pair. She said, "Maya's designs had heart. Something brands couldn't fake." For the first time, Maya imagined a future bigger than her room, bigger than the school, bigger than her fears. But success always attracts shadows. When Jade overheard a group of students excitedly talking about Maya's meeting with the boutique, her jealousy flared into something sharp and dangerous. She felt her status slipping, and the idea terrified her. She convinced herself Maya didn't deserve this attention. She was just a girl with old shoes and cheap scraps. During lunch, Jade approached Talia, pretending to admire the custom shoes, with a smile too sweet to be real. She asked to borrow them for a picture. Talia, trusting her, agreed. Moments later, Jade disappeared with the shoes, and Maya's world tilted. The sabotage had begun. Maya spent the entire afternoon searching for Talia's shoes, her heart pounding harder with every minute. When she finally found them behind the gym, her breath caught in her chest. They were ruined, cut, torn, smeared with something sticky and dark. Her hands shook as she picked them up. She could already imagine the boutique owner's disappointment, the questions, the lost chance. The pain hit her so hard she had to sit down. Jade's laughter echoed in her memory, even though she wasn't there. Maya pressed the shoes to her chest, trying to hold in the rising wave of heartbreak. This wasn't just sabotage. It felt like a message. She didn't belong, she wasn't worthy, and every step she took forward could be destroyed in a second. For the first time in weeks, doubt wrapped itself around her like a heavy chain. When Maya delivered the bad news to the boutique later that evening, her voice trembled. Marina listened carefully, her eyes scanning the damaged shoes. She tried to hide her disappointment, but Maya could feel it anyway. It hung heavy in the silent space between them. Marina kindly said they could try again in the future, but Maya heard what her heart feared. This chance was gone. Walking home, she felt smaller with every step. The excitement she once carried now felt like a lie she had told herself. By the time she reached her door, she could barely breathe. She had worked so hard, pushed herself so far, only to watch everything fall apart because someone wanted to hurt her. She wondered if maybe she wasn't meant for dreams after all. Back home, Maya lay on her bed staring at the ceiling, feeling the world collapse in slow motion. Elena brought her dinner, but Maya couldn't eat. She couldn't talk. She could only replay the humiliation, the lost opportunity, and Jade's cold, satisfied smile. When her father came in later, he sat on the floor beside her, quietly waiting until she finally spoke. She whispered that she wasn't strong enough, that everything she touched seemed to break. He listened without interrupting, then gently told her something she'd never considered. Storms don't destroy strong trees, they reveal them. His voice was steady, full of warmth she desperately needed. He reminded her that talent wasn't proven by success, but by the courage to start again when the world tried to stop you. The next morning, Maya woke with swollen eyes and a heart still sore. But her father's words echoed in her mind like a gentle drumbeat. She sat up slowly, looking at the messy room around her. Fabric scraps, sketches, abandoned tools. They all felt like pieces of a life she wasn't ready to let go of. She reached for one of her old shoes, holding it in her hands. It was worn, torn, tired, just like she felt. But even broken things had beginnings. Maya took a deep breath, letting the silence settle around her. She didn't feel strong, but she also didn't feel defeated anymore. She felt something softer, resolve. She knew she couldn't erase what happened, but she could decide what came next. And that decision felt like the smallest spark of a new sunrise. That afternoon, Maya gathered every scrap of fabric she owned, every tool, every broken shoe she had ever repaired. She spread them across the floor like a battlefield she refused to lose. This time, she wasn't creating out of panic or desperation. She was rebuilding from strength, from intention. She worked for hours, cutting, stitching, reshaping, crafting new designs from nothing but memory and heart. Each stitch felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. She didn't know if anyone would ever buy these pairs. She didn't know if she would get another chance with the boutique, but she knew something far more important. She could rise again, and she would. Maya didn't expect the video to spread beyond a few classmates. It was just Talia, happily showing off the replacement pair Maya finished in record time. But overnight, everything changed. Students reposted it. Friends shared it with their friends. By the next morning, hundreds of strangers had seen her work. Some commented with praise, others with shock, that someone so young could create something so beautiful from scrap. Maya sat at the breakfast table staring at her buzzing phone, barely able to breathe. Elena and Daniel watched her with stunned expressions as notifications poured in. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through messages from people asking how to order, how much she charged, if she shipped out of state. Her world didn't feel small anymore. It felt huge, terrifying, and breathtaking. School that day felt unreal. Everywhere Maya walked, students stared, not with cruelty, but with admiration. People whispered her name like she was someone entirely new. Even teachers congratulated her, telling her they saw the video and couldn't believe her talent. Maya tried to stay calm, but inside her chest, her heartbeat raced like a wild drum. Oliver found her between classes, nearly out of breath from excitement. He told her she was blowing up online, that people were calling her designs the next big thing. She laughed nervously, unable to believe any of it. But Oliver wasn't joking. She saw the pride in his eyes. For the first time, she wasn't hiding. She walked the halls like someone who finally realized her worth. By midweek, Maya's inbox overflowed with more requests than she could count. Some people wanted simple designs. Others wanted shoes for birthdays, dances, even competitions. She worked late into every night, but this time the exhaustion felt different. Lighter, fueled by purpose. Oliver offered to help organize orders, sorting messages, and writing down details while Maya stitched and cut. He told her she needed a brand name someday. The idea made her blush. A brand? Her? But as she watched the growing line of finished shoes on her bedroom floor, a quiet thought began to form. Maybe she wasn't just fixing shoes anymore. Maybe she was building something much bigger. Something that could outlive the pain that started it all. But not everyone shared the excitement. Jade watched everything unfold with growing dread. Standing in the courtyard, surrounded by her usual crowd, she felt the air shift. The same students who once praised her style now whispered about Maya's designs. One girl even said she wanted to buy a pair, just like the ones Talia wore. Jade felt the words like a slap. She tried to laugh it off, but the truth gnawed at her. She was losing control, losing attention, losing the power she built by pushing others down. And worst of all, she knew she caused the very rise she hated. The sabotage that was supposed to break Maya had only lit the spark brighter. A fear Jade had never known began tightening around her heart. The moment everything changed came unexpectedly. A popular fashion blogger reshared Talia's video, praising Maya's creativity. Within hours, a major streetwear brand commented asking who made the shoes. A small magazine reached out for an interview. Maya stared at her phone, stunned into silence as Oliver and her parents gathered around her. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the device. This wasn't just school-level fame. This was the world knocking on her door. Tears filled her eyes. Not from fear, but from overwhelming disbelief. All the pain, all the humiliation, all the nights crying into her pillow, somehow they led here. She wasn't just rising, she was breaking through. Maya's hands trembled as she stepped into the massive backstage area of the international fashion show. The lights were brighter than anything she had ever imagined, and the air buzzed with energy from designers, models, and photographers. She clutched the pair of shoes that started it all, the first ones she redesigned, patched from scraps born from pain. They were old, imperfect, and priceless. A coordinator rushed by, telling her she'd be introduced soon as the youngest breakthrough designer of the year. The words didn't feel real. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, remembering the hallway where Jade mocked her, the nights she cried, the hours she stitched until her fingers ached. She wasn't the same girl anymore. She was walking into a world she built with her own hands. The runway felt like a dream unfolding in slow motion. One by one, models stepped out wearing her designs, bright colors, bold shapes, pieces stitched with heart and memory. The audience gasped softly, leaning forward with awe. Maya watched from behind the curtain, her breath shaking every time a pair of her shoes hit the glowing walkway. She remembered every scrap of fabric, every moment she almost gave up. Now the world was seeing her work, not as a hobby but as art. When the show director whispered, "You're up next," Maya felt her knees weaken, but she stepped forward anyway, guided by the voice inside her that whispered she finally belonged. The curtains parted. The world was waiting. When Maya finally stepped onto the runway, the crowd rose to their feet. She walked slowly, clutching the first pair of shoes she ever redesigned, the pair that carried her through humiliation, heartbreak, and rebirth. The applause washed over her like a warm tide. Cameras flashed. People cheered her name. She felt tears building, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from relief, from pride, from knowing she had climbed out of the darkness and into a place she once thought impossible. When she reached the end of the runway, she lifted the shoes gently, offering them to the world like a piece of her heart, and the world accepted. After the show, backstage buzzed with congratulations, interviews, and excitement. But in the middle of the chaos, Jade appeared, hesitant, quiet, almost unrecognizable. She approached Maya slowly, her confident posture replaced by uncertainty. Jade admitted everything. The jealousy, the sabotage, the cruelty. Her voice shook as she apologized, saying Maya didn't deserve any of it. Maya listened, feeling the old hurt rise, but not with the same sharpness. She had grown beyond the girl Jade once tried to break. Forgiving didn't mean forgetting, but it meant freedom. Maya nodded softly, offering a gentle smile. Jade's eyes filled with relief. For the first time, Maya saw not a bully, but a broken girl who never learned how to shine without dimming someone else's light. Months later, Maya stood inside her first global studio. Bright, spacious, filled with shoes that once lived only in her imagination. Reporters praised her as a rising star. Designers wanted to collaborate. Stores lined up to stock her products, but Maya's favorite part wasn't the fame. It was the donation wall. Hundreds of photos of children around the world wearing free shoes from her new charity line. Shoes made with love, not fear. Strength, not shame. She looked at the very first pair she ever redesigned, now displayed in a glass case. They were torn, patched, imperfect, and they were the beginning of everything. Maya smiled softly, knowing her journey wasn't just about rising. It was about lifting others with her.